Well, good evening and welcome to the second town hall meeting for the proposed CC&R amendment vote to prohibit short-term rentals. If I go to the first slide, tonight we are going to review with you how the association got here, provide you with an update on the status of the vote, share some residents' feedback with you, and answer the questions that you pre-submitted to the board. The next slide, please. I'd like to introduce, we had 4 panelists, but as things happen, we have a little technical difficulty. So tonight we're going to have 3 panelists plus Linda Barton, who's a member of the board and has been on our working group. All of these people have served on the short-term rental working group, and they volunteered to respond to your questions. And if you'll wave at the camera when I call your name, others will be able to see who you are. Linda Barton, need to wave. Lee Decker, Lee is also our chairperson. Susanna Zanell is the individual that's having a problem with technical problems. And I'm Bob Nelson, and I will facilitate this meeting. If we go to the next slide, please. Similar to the process that the association used at its annual meeting in 2020, we anticipate that this virtual meeting will take less than an hour. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions ahead of time so that we could prepare slides with answers for you. During the meeting, each panelist will read a pre-submitted question and then share their answer. Only panelist microphones will be active. A recording of this meeting is taking place and will be uploaded to the community website so that others who were unable to participate tonight may be able to review it at their convenience. Yeah. So how do we get here? For those of you who have been around for a while, you may recall that in 2009, a good neighbor policy was approved by the board and implemented to promote harmony in our community. That rental policy was consistent with the original intent of our CC&Rs and prohibited any new leases from having a term of 6 months or less. This policy was invalidated when, in 2016, new state legislation required rental restrictions to be included in the community's CC&Rs. Our CC&Rs do not have rental time restrictions. As vacation rentals became more popular, the board received increasing resident complaints about the activity coming from some of these short-term rental properties. It was then that the board decided to form a resident-led working group to research the impact of short-term rentals had on neighborhoods as well as Las Sendas as a whole. In 2019, the group confirmed that Las Sendas had approximately 50 homes advertised release as vacation rentals. The group continued to monitor the number of short-term rentals as they moved forward and made a recommendation to the board several months with several methods to regulate problematic rental properties. 2 methods implemented by the association to address short-term rentals was the requirement first to register your rental property with the association, and then stronger enforcement for reoccurring violations with increased monetary fines. Today, the number of vacation rentals advertised and located in Las Sendas has more than doubled. The association estimates that about 17% of Las Sendas homes are potential rental properties, many of which are in violation of the rental registration policy. As the number of vacation rentals has increased, the association's nuisance violations have also increased. Nuisances from any property, including short-term rentals, may negatively affect 8 or more neighboring properties. And some examples of these nuisance violations include the following: excessive noise, which includes loud music, late night parties, and profanity. Business activity not consistent with a residential neighborhood. Trash containers placed on the street several times per week. Large numbers of cars blocking fire lanes and neighboring driveways. Excessive and disrespectful usage of our community amenities by guests. Compared to 2019, confirmed nuisance violations increased in 2021 through the month of November by 41%. Violations related to trash increased by 70%, and properties commercial use increased by 25%. We know that the number of short-term rentals in Los Angeles is continually rising. So while you may not currently have one in your immediate vicinity, this could easily change at any time. Problematic short-term rentals can have an adverse effects on their nearby neighbors, others in their enclave, and even the Los Angeles community as a whole. The Los Angeles board supported the initiative to propose a CC&R amendment to restrict vacation rentals, as has successfully been done in similar master plan communities such as Desert Mountain and the Islands. This amendment would require all rental contracts to be 31 days or more, at which point the state of Arizona has property management licensing requirements. So let's talk about what the amendment says. If 75% of homeowners approve the CC&R amendment after 180 days from its recording, owners will no longer be able to rent their properties for less than 31 consecutive days. They may not advertise the property for lease as vacation rental, and they may not be used as a timeshare or fractional interest properties. And to give you some further explanation, timeshares would be defined as several owners agreeing to use a property as a vacation home and not for residential use. And fractional use properties are where multiple families purchase a property for vacation purposes and then split their usage based on the ownership percentage. Each of these restrictions would apply to full residential units and lots. For more information on the proposed CC&R amendment vote, please visit the community website at mylosendis.org or click on the QR code. If you're ready to vote, you may vote online, by mail, or in person at the trailhead. Now, we recognize that many of you may not currently have or live next door to a problematic short-term rental. But I'd ask you to take a few moments to listen to a few of your fellow residents that do have these facilities or these short-term rentals next to them.
Well, the turnover is regular.
It went on for weeks.
When one of these rentals are in town, we just don't sleep.
Yeah, no.
This is just for weeks on end.
Screaming their heads off, school's out for summer.
It wouldn't end until, 1 at 2 at night.
It's been nonstop noise in the neighborhood.
They don't care about us, they don't care about our community.
We had to call the police, at least on 3 occasions.
They're drinking, the noise gets loud, they party late.
They park cars all over the fire lane. 1 car, 2 cars, 5 cars, 10 cars.
So I don't want to babysit somebody's motel.
3 o'clock in the morning, they're done, they gotta clean up.
They gotta dump
And I'm in the
the
middle
liquor
of,
bottles.
I've actually fallen asleep and then they dump all the glass bottles and all that stuff, and yet I'm woken up yet again.
It's a very pervasive problem, and it's only going to get worse.
It's taken a residential neighborhood and changed it.
These are businesses.
Just awful. I don't wish it on anyone, because it's not something that you just don't feel good about where you live anymore. You feel like you're trapped.
We don't want to see this happen to other people. So we strongly suggest you vote yes for the amendment to the CC&Rs.
You can't sit this one out. There is no sitting this one out. I am asking you to vote for us, for what we're going through.
This is really in the hands of the residents of Las Sendas. This is our opportunity to clarify once and for all that this is a residential community.
It may not affect you now, but your next door neighbor might put a house up for sale and be approached by an investment company.
So if you think this doesn't affect you, you don't have to vote, you're wrong. Because it's coming to you. It's coming to your block.
At this point, we're going to go through the questions that were submitted by those of you who are participating in this meeting tonight. We received quite a few questions. The various panelists will go through, read the question, and talk about the answer to that. And we're going to start with the very first one with Lee.
Good evening, everyone. The question that I have, so the first question is, what is the status of the vote? So as of the end of the day yesterday, January 24th, 2,501 homeowners out of 3,430 lots, that's about 73%, have submitted their vote to either support or oppose the proposed amendment. As an aside, this is the highest participation in a Las Sendas vote that the HOA is aware of.
Has everyone been notified of the vote? We're making every effort to ensure that everyone is notified of the vote. In November of 2021, all homeowners were mailed notification of the vote. Since then, it is disclosed at escrow to buyers, and every 30 days, once contract information is received from new owners by the office, information is mailed to them. Additional outreach is continually being done in several ways, such as through email, our enclave ambassadors, and social media. The next question is Bob.
Who can vote? Each lot is entitled to cast one vote for our community's CC&Rs. Thus, loaners of multiple lots would be entitled to cast one vote per lot.
Next question, when does the vote close? The vote will close once one of the required percentages in the CC&Rs are met for a CC&R amendment. And those are equal than or greater to 75% approval or greater than 25% disapproval. Also, the board may decide to close the vote if they determine that there is no realistic expectation of additional votes. When the vote closes, the results and breakdown will be communicated to residents and property owners in Las Sendas.
The next question has come up a number of times. Can I change my vote? Yes, at any time while voting is still open, if a homeowner or property owner changes their mind, they can revoke their original consent by submitting a request in writing at the Trailhead office. Likewise, any votes cast by owners of homes that have been sold are invalidated, so the new owner can cast a vote. In both cases, a new vote can be submitted.
Out of the 5,400 homes, how many have been troublesome? Well, I want to level set. First of all, there's 3,430 lots in Las Sendas, not 5,400, but about 100 of those are empty lots, and up to 17% of the homes are rentals. The association estimates that 17% of these are potential rental properties. And we know that without certain rental time restrictions regulated within the CC&Rs, as we've seen over the last 2 years, the number of short-term rentals in Los Angeles will most likely continue to rise. While you may not currently have one in your immediate vicinity, that could easily change at any time. Knowing that a problematic short-term rental can adversely affect up to 8 nearby neighbors without change, that in itself impacts a significant number of families within our community.
All right, the next question is, where did the short-term rental working group come from? Bob mentioned this earlier, but the short-term rental working group was formed in 2019 by the HOA board to evaluate the scope and impact of short-term rentals on the residents of Las Sendas. Volunteers for that group are sought through community emails, and all members of the group are residents or property owners in Las Sendas. Short-term rental impact surveys and resulting feedback were sent out to the community by the short-term rental working group. And then articles have been published in regards to the short-term rental working group and its work in the official publications of the HOA, including the Las Sendas Living magazine and in the @MyLasCendas social media accounts. And as a final note, all community meetings, including meetings of the short-term rental working group, are open to homeowners.
Have you asked current owners of short-term rentals what impact they feel they had on the neighborhood and neighbors? Current owners of short-term rentals were able to provide feedback to the short-term rental working group through the survey of the community, and have been able to participate in the meetings of the short-term rental working committee and to email us with their thoughts. The problem is that since owners of short-term rentals do not live in the home, they are not always aware of the problems that are occurring and may not know of the negative impacts that their paying guests are having on the neighbors and the neighborhood. In those cases, neighbors can lodge complaints, but many have been reluctant to do so. I want to stress that we know not all short-term rental owners and guests are problematic. Unfortunately, when there is a problem, it can affect not just the immediate neighbor on each side, but as many as 8 or more homes in the neighborhood. As mentioned by Bob earlier, the number of complaints and violations has been increasing as the number of short-term rentals has increased in Las Sendas.
If passed, how will this amendment be enforced? A revised violation enforcement and fine policy for non-compliant homeowners will be created and approved by the board if the amendment is passed. Non-compliant homeowners may receive monetary penalties, lose access to amenities, and/or have court action taken against them.
What happens if this amendment does not pass? So if the amendment does not pass, it is unlikely the amendment will be brought back for a vote. One of the main reasons for this is that if the amendment does not pass, and given the increasing number of short-term rentals, the future success of the vote would be unlikely due to the number of votes that will be held by investment companies and other owners of short-term rentals. However, even if the amendment does not pass, policies to attempt to address the negative impacts of short-term rentals will continue to be explored and implemented as necessary.
How might this amendment affect our property value? Both members of the short-term rental working committee and the board believe that short-term rentals have a negative impact on both property values and the quality of life of residents in Las Sendas. problematic short-term rentals, which this amendment is meant to address, are inconsistent with the type of neighborhood people choosing to live within an HOA expect. This amendment is consistent with the original intention of our CC&Rs to preserve a peaceful, single-family residential lifestyle in Las Endas.
The next question is, how can I accommodate visiting family when there are no hotels in the area with kitchens? Your family can still visit and stay with you in your Las Endas home. The opening of a new hotel, Home to Suites by Hilton Mesa over by Longbow Golf Course, offers accommodations in close proximity to Las Endas. This hotel is just 5 minutes from the Power Road entrance into Las Endas, and the hotel offers suites with kitchens.
Next question. What association funds have been used on this amendment and campaign? As discussed in board meetings, noticed and open to all Las Endas residents, the board approved a not to exceed budget of $50,000 for this vote and campaign. That budget includes costs for multiple printings, postage for all 3,430 lots, electronic voting, legal input, and an independent third party to audit and count the submitted votes. As noted on the slide, about $17,000 have been spent so far.
This question has come up a number of times. Why are you restricting challenges to this amendment? In fact, all residents are welcome to share and promote their opinions. At our first town hall meeting in November, a group encouraging homeowners to vote against the amendment set up a table and distributed handouts, and we did not prevent them from doing so. Having said this, based on research and resident feedback, the board has taken a position in support of the amendment and is encouraging residents to vote yes.
The next question is, how are residents notified if there's a rental house next to theirs? And the answer is they are not, and they never have been.
A similar question, is there a list of rented houses posted and updated online? No, there's not a list of rented houses posted and updated online, nor is there a list of homes lived in by owners of the property.
Does security know what houses are rentals? No, security does not have a list identifying which houses are rentals. They respond to all calls from the community, regardless of where they originate.
The next question, do homeowners who own short-term rentals have any recourse to stop neighbors who are harassing their renters? Harassment is not considered a violation of our CC&Rs, so the association cannot address it. It is a legal issue. You can contact the City of Mesa Police Department or your own attorney.
All right. Another question asked here is, why do we want an amendment that will infringe on the property rights of owners? In response, this amendment does not infringe on the property rights of owners. Owners still have the right to rent their property in the normal and traditional manner, as long as it is for a period of not less than 31 days. As a reminder, every owner who chose to purchase in Las Endas did so with the understanding that their property rights are subject to restrictions laid out in the CC&Rs. In contrast, problematic short-term rentals directly infringe on the property rights of neighboring owners. The proposed amendment to prohibit short-term rentals is consistent with the intentions of the original documents for Las Endas to preserve a peaceful single-family residential community.
What can residents do to help with the vote? While we are encouraging residents to vote yes, we also want everyone to take the opportunity to vote on the amendment. We want to ensure that everyone's voice is heard. So please encourage your neighbors to vote. If you would like to get even more involved and feel comfortable explaining why the board is encouraging a yes vote, you can also become an Enclave ambassador. Anyone interested in being an ambassador can email the email shown on the screen. And of course, be sure to vote yourself.
I'd like to thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. You can scan the QR code on your screen or visit mylascendis.org/vote for more information or for additional testimonials. If you haven't already voted, you can contact the association by stopping in at the trailhead, sending an email to our management team, or calling 480-357-8780 during regular business hours to receive a paper form to vote or your online voting code. On behalf of my colleagues that worked on the short-term working group, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to participate in our virtual town hall meeting. Wish you all a very good night.